Let's bring in Ulrich Brueckner now, Professor of European Studies at Stanford University in Berlin. Welcome, Ulrich. So, Russia claims it's taken some key cities in this conflict. If that's true, does it mean that the Kremlin is more likely to get what it wants from a peace deal?
Well, we have seen this multiple times, that whenever there is something that sounds like upcoming negotiations, Russia presents a theater in which they pump up their success stories from the battleground to make it look as if finally this is the game changer. And if negotiations fail, they will win the war militarily. We have seen this over and over again, and it didn't happen. Currently, they occupy 19% of the Ukrainian territory, and it doesn't really look as if this changes after 3.5 years of war.
Could the recent corruption scandal involving Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, at the time, and if there were losses on the battlefield coming in to serious negotiations, could that weaken the European Union's resolve for backing Ukraine all the way?
Well, it was very serious to hear that supporting Ukraine practically unconditional leads to a situation in which, in such an extreme situation, corruption grows, that this weakens the public support for the unity of the European Union. But now, given the fact that the strong man in the management of Vladimir Zelensky's presidential office is no longer there, it is a strong signal both in the direction of the Europeans that Zelensky is willing to fight corruption, and it plays a major role in the United States because he wasn't the one who was the most liked by the MAGA movement.
It seems fairly clear the Kremlin won't make any concessions to get an end to the fighting. And the perception is that Russia it has the edge on the battlefield. It's slow advances, but nonetheless advances. If there's going to be a peace deal, what do you think Volodymyr Zelensky would be willing to concede to Russia to get a quick peace?
Well, it is only one side of the coin. The other side is that Russia is massively under pressure economically, but we can also speculate about this and to what point it's becoming too heavy of a burden to force Putin to give in. So speculation on both sides. When we look at the revised 28 points plan, which to my knowledge is now down to 19, there are two important factors that both sides could present as a success. The one is territory that is currently occupied can't be taken back by Ukraine. It's a matter of fact. How this is legally positioned in whatever formula or document, that's up to the negotiations. But Russia occupies 19% of the territory, and there is very little the Ukrainians could do with or without the support of the Europeans. The other point is NATO membership. If we learned in February from J.D. Vance that Europe is not worth being defended, only if Europeans pay for security, then the United States would consider, then deterrence is over, and being a NATO member doesn't practically means much more than being a member, but it's not an automatic support given by a collective security architecture. So giving up the NATO position and accepting something like a frozen line could be a position to keep negotiations going, because there's certainly no military solution. It must be a diplomatic one, and finally we now negotiate.
Some interesting points there. Thank you so much for coming on. Ulrich Brueckner, Professor of European Studies at Stanford University in Berlin.